beautiful morning out at Scout Camp. Welcome everyone to Arrow Haddock Adventures. I'm Nick, and it is a beautiful morning out here at camp. And today we are at Brady Saunders, and of course, you see I'm wearing a white sash with a red arrow. It is an Order of the Arrow weekend, and there's a lot of scouters scouters, parents who don't know what the Order of the Arrow is. So in this video, we're going to talk about what the Order of the Arrow is, take you around camp and show you some of the things the scouts are doing. We're going to talk about a few of the things with the Order of the Arrow. We can't get into a lot of like the ceremonies and everything, but want to give you a good idea of what goes on with the Order of the Arrow. So I'm asking you to join me as we talk about today about the Order of the Arrow. All right, so I've moved from the STEM building over here to the OA Order of the Arrow Pavilion that was just built a couple years ago. And you see behind me a bunch of bags, sleeping bags and everything. And these are the Ordeal candidates that are going through their Ordeal process. And I'm going to talk about the Ordeal in a minute. But just kind of give you a little background of the Order of the Arrow. The Order of the Arrow is just as old as the Boy Scouts of America. The Boy Scouts of America, founded in 1910. The Order of the Arrow, about just 5 years later, in 1915. It is the honored camper society, kind of like a fraternity almost, but it's the Honor Camper Society, where in order to get into the Order of the Arrow, you're elected by your peers. So scouts are elected by scouts. Adult leaders or parents are elected by the adults. Now there are some other qualifications for the scouts. You have to have 15 days of camping. You also have to be at least first class. For adults, you have to have 15 years of camping and as well be a service to your unit, district. So, and it goes basically for, you have an election every year. An elections team is going to come and hold an election. All right. Now, this election team is done by the chapter. Okay. So the chapter is part of the lodge. Here in the heart of Virginia Council, our lodge is called the Nawakwa Lodge, number 3. So you never know who you're going to run into. So Nawakwa number 3 is the chartered lodge for the Heart of Virginia Council. Now, in that lodge, there are chapters, such as here in Arrow Haddock, our chapter 28, same district number as Arrow Haddock, is the Koshkin. We have our own totem. Fortunately, I don't have that with me. It's actually in the car. But so the chapter sets up elections. Okay. Each chapter is run by a chapter chief. The lodge is run by a lodge chief. It is youth-led. All right. I know I'm skipping around, but I keep remembering things. But, and that's the big thing. This is just like on the at the troop level, it's run by boys and girls. Sorry. It's run by the youth. Okay. So it has our senior scout is the lodge chief. And then each chapter has their own chapter chief, and there's positions in different things. There's vice chief of elections, vice chief of camping promotions, vice chief of communications. But each of those vice chiefs and the lodge chief has an advisor, an adult advisor that assists in making sure the lodge executive committee, the LEC, is going in the right direction. And they do all the planning and everything of what goes on here in the lodge. So going back to elections. So a unit contacts the chapter and say, hey, we want to hold an election. So the chapter is going to put together their elections team, and they're going to send the elections team to the unit. They're going to come in, not only going to hold an election, they're also going to hold a camping promotion. Talk about camping, summer camp, you know. That's one thing, you know, we pride ourselves with the Ordeal is going out and promoting camping and everything, especially here at our service camps. So the election team's going to come, and they're going to say, hey, we have, the unit's going to say, we have this many youth that are eligible for the Ordeal. Now, you have to have a certain percentage of scouts present of your troop. And then you break that down, each boy has to get X amount of votes. So again, the election, the boys and the girls are elected by their peers. Same thing with the adults. The adults, they're nominated. They have to go through a nomination process, has to go and get signed off by the chief of the fire, which is the council exec. Once a scout is elected, they become candidates. A lot of times, a lot of units and even the chapters will hold a tap out ceremony, officially, formally saying, you have been elected into the Ordeal. You are now an Ordeal candidate. So, this is where a lot of, you know, parents get told, oh, hey, yes, my scout's in the Order of the Arrow. What's the Order of the Arrow? So the Order of the Arrow, it's a service-based organization. We pride ourselves on service. Now, we go camping, we have great times. We pride ourselves on the 3 W's. Wamatadink, Wingalausik, Wetahemway. And it stands for Brotherhood of Cheerful Service. Through the Brotherhood, we cheerfully serve. So, just like we are this weekend, we are out here doing a service to the camp. And again, a little bit later, I'm going to take you around camp and show you what some of the things that our scouts and our scouters going through Ordeal are doing. So when they get elected, they sign up, they register, and they come to an Ordeal weekend. That's what's going on right now. They show up Friday. Now, again, I'm not going to go into the ceremonies and everything because we want them to be surprised about about what they're going to see. But some of the things that, you know, it almost is a spiritual thing. Now, this is some of my opinion too. The Ordeal weekend is very spiritual. You're sleeping under the stars. You know, the first thing after you register, you're taken to a ceremony, getting you excited for this weekend. And the ceremony is, again, it's emotional because it's the start of your journey. So you go through your ceremony. During that ceremony, they're telling you certain things, what's happening. One, you're sleeping under the stars. Second, you take a vow of silence for about 16 hours. You have to remain silent. So, and then also, you're kind of in a fast. You're given what's called scant food. It can be a very emotional weekend for these Ordeal candidates. For some Ordeal candidates, they have brothers, siblings, parents, grandparents that are in the OA, so it's also a family affair. I know my family, we have 4 generations in the Order of the Arrow, from different lodges, but So they go through this entire weekend. Now today on a Saturday, one thing that they're doing is the service portion, all at the same time remaining quiet, using the silence, but still working together to get the task done. Now at the end of the day, after they've gone through their arduous tasks and finishing their responsibilities, they'll go through the ordeal ceremony, where they will, again, very ceremoniously, with the aid of Alawatsakima, Nudikit, Mateu, and Kitchkanet, they are presented their ordeal sash. Now, their ordeal sash does not have the dashes. This is the Brotherhood. This is this basically kind of like the second tier of the Order of the Arrow. This is when you become a Brotherhood member, you seal your membership into the organization. You are a member for life. So you complete your ordeal. You become an OA member, and you get to officially wear the OA flap over the right pocket. It's a sign of respect. You know, hey, oh, you're in the Order of the Arrow. Now, the best thing about this Order of the Arrow is, again, the brotherhood that we share. You can go to any council and go to an OA event, and you're treated like family. It is an amazing organization. It's it's a special place to be elected into the Order of the Arrow. Now, again, once you complete your ordeal, 6 months later, or up to 6 months, you're allowed to go and seal your membership, and as taking your brotherhood. Now, the brotherhood, again, it's not as arduous as the ordeal, but you still have to do tasks. And the top tier in the Order of the Arrow is the Vigil, which, again, in order to become Vigil, you are elected by your peers. So that's a little bit about the OA. And, make sure if you don't understand the OA, get with your local chapter. Here at Arrow Haddock, again, it's the Takaashkin Chapter 28, which Takaashkin Chapter 28 meets every third Thursday of the month at Hopewell United Methodist Church. And it is a wonderful time. It's a great fellowship to be a part of the Order of the Arrow. So with that being said, I'm going to take you around camp and show you just some of the things that are the scouters who are working on their ordeal weekend. And one of the things that they do out here at T. Brady Saunders is our service is helping set up summer camp. Right now they're setting up tents, they're cleaning things, they're painting, doing whatever is necessary to get summer camp ready. Now, we have gone out to Camp Albright. Camp Albright, we went to Camp Albright this past fall and completed so many projects. In fact, the projects that were done would usually take the Albright group months to complete, and they completed them in one day because there were so many of us out there. We do trail crew 2-3 times a year. We go come out here to T. Brady Saunders, Camp Albright. We've gone out to Powhatan, Pocahontas State Park, and done service. So we don't just help out scouting, we also help out the community, and that's the one thing about, again, Brotherhood of Cheerful Service. So we're going to go and we're going to take a look at exactly what some of the groups are doing. So let's head on out. All right. So as I'm walking to the first group, to kind of show you kind of some of the service project. Now, again, the other thing about the ordeal is they separate these groups into clans. Like my one son who's going through ordeal, he is in the bison. You've got cardinal. I think there's antelope, a couple other spiritual animals. That is their clan totem. So I kind of wanted to touch base on a little bit of that. So I'm heading over to one of the clans right now, but you know, while being en route to that, we're going to stop by the trading post because, you know, just like any organization, we have our merchandise, you know, patches, stuff like that. So we're going to stop in the makeshift trading post and kind of show you what they have in the trading post. All right, so we are now in the trading post. It's a beehive of activity. Just kind of show you some of the stuff that you can buy through the Order of the Arrow. You got shirts, the 2018 Nowak, or the anniversary shirt. You got masks, you got patches, hats, previous year patches. You got belt buckles, you got backpack patches, you got everything that an OA member needs. Usually, the trading post is located up at the main trading post, but this year it is at the STEM Center. All right, it looks like one of the clans coming down. Let's see if I can get it coming on down. And again, these scouts, you're not going to hear much talking. They're not allowed to talk during this. They're vow of silence, and they're being followed by their Elango mat. Those are their OA members who are basically going through an ordeal with them all over again. So this clan's obviously heading to a new location. We're going to head over and see what this group is doing. So this clan, their service is they are redoing some of the landscaping around the administration building, replacing a new border, going to be putting in new rocks. Hard at work. All right, so we are at the archery range, and there's two clans out here, and I'm trying to stay quiet because, again, the vow of silence that these scouts and scouters out here have to take. But basically what they're doing, they're just doing some beautification, pulling weeds, making sure there's no issues with the range. All right, on to the next location. All right, so we are back in the car. The scouts are candidates are all over the camp, so we're heading over to Cub Adventure Camp to see what's going on over there. But first, we're going to stop at the Nawakwa Lodge Scout Museum, just kind of show you that. It's a very nice museum, a lot of great memorabilia, so we're heading over there now, and we'll see you there. Alrighty, we are at the Nawakwa Scouting Museum. Now, you may not, realize it, that you are passing a museum unless, you actually pay attention more to the sign. But straight down this way is the entrance to T. Brady Saunders, and you actually pass this building every time you go to the Douglas Fleet camping area and the Brady Saunders area. I've already talked to the gentleman inside, and he's okay with me doing a quick shot inside. So let's go in and take a look at the museum. Alrighty, so this would be the normal entrance to the museum. This museum, run by the Nawakwa Lodge, has a lot of scouting memorabilia, as well as an entire wall of every Nawakwa Lodge flat. They're currently doing some fixes. Probably one of the neatest parts of this museum is they have at least one of every lodge flat in the Order of the Arrow. Can you spot, if you were part of another lodge, can you spot your old OA flaps? And some of these lodges don't even exist anymore. not just OA memorabilia, they have all sorts of old school memorabilia, from jamborees to uniforms, scouting action figures, bugles, old school uniforms, the backpacks, and they do have items for sale in here. So if you're looking for some old Scout memorabilia or anything, you can come here and purchase some items that they have for sale. This is actually really cool just to see all the different types of OA sashes, different vigil placards. That's actually really cool. Of course, if you come in here, they've got council strips, ranging from all different councils.
You got it? Let me run down there. I think you can handle it now, right? It's up here. These are all connected, right?
Yep. All
Different event patches.
All right. Okay. They're hot right there.
So yeah, so if you're ever at Brady Saunders and this museum is open, you definitely want to come check this out. Seeing this stuff in person is a lot better than seeing it on video. All right, so now we're going to head on over to the Cub Adventure Camp and see what clans are doing over there. All right, now we are on the Cub Adventure side. We're at the Blues Tent Village, where they are currently setting up tents for Cub Adventure Weekend. So not only are they setting tents up for summer camp, they're also setting up the tents for Cub Adventure Camp. So let's head over again. We're going to try to keep our distance as we not bug them. And again, all just done this morning. They have put up all these tents. Now, it's a little bit easier to put these tents up because they are on metal frames. But all these tents and all this area will be set up by the end of the day. All right, we are over at the Cub Adventure Plantation home, where they store a lot of the stuff. Basically what they're doing is they're pulling the cots out, which are going to go to said Baloo Village. So they keep these scouts on moving. They've just finished up loading, and they're on their way to put the cots out. All right, so luck behold, I actually ran into the lodge chief as I was coming back over T. Brady Saunders. So I'm going to have the lodge chief talk to you about, and actually we got a couple vice chiefs, a little bit about their experiences with the OA, what they do with the OA, especially the lodge chief and what the vice chiefs do. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Hi, my name is Tyler Fadden, and I'm the current 2021 Nawakwa Lodge Chief. Joining me today are two of my three vice chiefs, Ross Helmer, our vice chief of admin, and Caleb Fender, our vice chief of communication. I will shortly pass it to them about what they do in the Ordeal after I talk about my responsibilities as Lodge Chief. Throughout this year, I have learned the responsibilities of Lodge Chief and what I exactly do. Going through many virtual events due to the pandemic is a different challenge that we all are going through this year. Now, this is our first big in-person event that we are having with the total attendance of 194 airmen, which 82 are going through their Ordeal, 10 are going through their Brotherhood, and we have a total of 102 members that are attending this weekend that are fully in the OA. Now, going through the OA, you first get elected by your troop, and then you go through what is called an ordeal, signified by the arrow. Next, you are able to earn your brotherhood by sealing your membership, which then shows these 2 bars, which you will learn about if you go through your brotherhood. Then, as you see to my right, there's a triangle. The triangle represents the highest honor in scouting. 2 years after you obtain your brotherhood, you are eligible to obtain your vigil. And vigil is about what you are expected to do in the future of the lodge. I will now pass it over to Ross Helmer to talk about his duties of Vice Chief of Admin.
As the Vice Chief of Admin, I represent my committees underneath me, like food service or health service. And if they need anything, or I will help them out with that, and I'm the liaison between the lodge chief and the committees.
As Vice Chief of Communications, I am in charge of all the communications committees, and that includes our Electronic Communications Committee, who manage our social media and our website, and our marketing and branding, camp promotions, and the secretary. I'm also the liaison between those chairmen and their committee and to the lodge chief.
I also am in charge of 7 different chapters, which each make up 7 councils within our lodge. We have Chapter 4, Chapter 5, Chapter 7, Chapter 18, Chapter 19, Chapter 23, and Chapter 28 to their corresponding districts. These chapter chiefs are the ones that lead the individual troops, crews, and ships within their district to make them a better connection between the lodge and their unit. This job of the chapter chief is a very important role due to the fact that it is our only connection between the chapter and the lodge. And without the chapter chief, we would have a major struggle having these. So anybody who is a chapter chief, I cannot thank them enough for all of the work that they put in. So that is a little bit of what we do throughout a weekend and how we plan this. So hopefully you guys learned something today.
All right, so a huge thank you to the lodge chief and 2 of his vice chiefs for stopping and talking to me. It was like a spur of the moment thing, so I really appreciate them stopping to talk to us. We're gonna try to catch up with a couple clans just to kind of during their lunch period, because I want to kind of touch on the fasting, the scant food a little bit. So let's go find a clan during lunch. Alrighty, well, it is lunchtime for our Ordeal candidates. Now the members, they're over at the STEM building behind me getting their lunch, but the Ordeal candidates, again, during the Ordeal, they have to go through a fasting, eating scant food. Their breakfast is minimal, but enough to keep them going through the day with plenty of water throughout the day. But now lunchtime, they're getting a small meal. Again, it's to learn how to do with less, but still doing an arduous task. So let's kind of go over and take a look at what they have for lunch. Okay, so I was going to try to see if I can show you kind of a little bit, because you kind of, as parents and people who don't know the OA, but they don't want to see exactly what they're eating. But again, with the scant food, it's to help them learn why they're doing the arduous task, to do things with very little. So, but nonetheless, that's really what goes on during this time. Now, their day's almost done. Now, notice I've changed into my Class A uniform. So now, going over to have lunch myself, and we're going to be going to ceremonies. So I'm going to go eat, and I'll catch back up with you guys in a little bit. All right, so I after a very nice lunch. Basically, what happens now? The Ordeal members, they're having a little meeting and everything. Their day's pretty much over. They're getting ready for ceremonies. We're all getting ready for ceremonies. Now, I will not be taking you to the OA ceremonial ring here at Saunders. That is a sacred place for our lodge. But this is now where our Brotherhood members, our Ordeal members who are going for their Brotherhood, are going to be sealing their membership, earning their 2 bars on the OA sash. And then next will be the Ordeal candidates. They will come and do their Ordeal ceremony where they will receive their arrow. It is a emotional and very sacred moment for many scouts and scouters who do this, especially when you see have a parent who's got a son or a daughter becoming the OA member. So, in a nutshell, that is pretty much what goes on during a ordeal. Again, didn't want to get into too much of, you didn't want to get into the ceremonies, just basic. But again, if you are a scout leader or SPL and you want to have an OA election, please get with your local chapter. Here in Arrow Haddock, it is the Takaashkan chapter. Get with them so you can set up a time for them, an elections team to come in and do an election. And with that being said, folks, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.